Hello, everyone. Welcome back to True Green and Gold. Here we are giving week 11 picks. Tonight, we lead off with the Elks, who seem to just be the appetizer every week, it seems now, going to Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats. I don't know if anybody had the Taylor Powell versus Trey Ford quarterback matchup on their bingo card to start the season, but if you did, here you go. It's a very interesting matchup, not only of quarterbacks, but of new offensive coordinators. Jarius Jackson is going to be in his second game leading the Elks offense, while Hamilton, to the delight of all their fans, got rid of Tommy Condell and have now brought in Scott Milanovich, an infamous figure in Edmonton, to call their plays. Obviously, we all remember Milanovich, who was going to be the head coach of Edmonton, but left to take a job with the Indianapolis Colts. And just like Thanos said in Endgame, the CFL basically said, you couldn't deal with your failure, and it led you back to me. So now, more questions arise out of this. Trey Ford, per PFF, actually was very efficient in his first start. Granted, he didn't throw a lot of passes, only threw 16 passes on the night, completed 12 of them. Most of them were within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. His touchdown pass was obviously a screen to Kyron Moore, who did most of the work. But it seemed like Ford made the right play most of the time, and that's really all you can ask of a guy, particularly right at the beginning. Just get it, the ball where it needs to go. I wasn't expecting him to come in and just instantly be a superstar. But on that note, a superstar is coming back. Geno Lewis will finally be back in the lineup, and this should only elevate Ford's performance even more. I do think this is going to open things up a little bit, allow for some deeper throws and less predictability among the Elks offense. But nonetheless, I do think Hamilton is going to have pretty good performance in this one. Obviously, James Butler is the key. He's been lighting it up all year for the Ticats. And I'm interested to see if Taylor Powell, who has a pretty strong arm, and we saw him throw that really nice touchdown to the corner of the end zone at the game at Commonwealth, if he's going to be allowed to throw it deep a little bit, try and hit Tim White on those deep balls. If he can, this could be a decently exciting game. Nonetheless, I'm going with the Elks in this one. Why not? Get win number one on the season. Next up, Friday night, we got Winnipeg going to Calgary. Obviously, the big story in this one is Zach Collaros. He did not practice on Wednesday, and he's listed as questionable for this game. Drew Brown obviously did a great job against a weary Edmonton defense in the second half last week. Can he do it again if called upon? We'll see. Calgary's been among the most up and down teams in the CFL this year. Seen them be really good. They upset Toronto recently. Also had some stinker games on both sides of the ball. Only put up 11 points against Winnipeg earlier in the season. Allowed over 40 against Ottawa a few weeks ago. This team, you just kind of don't know what you're going to see out of them week to week. But I'm going to pick the Stamps in this one. Just got a feeling that home cooking will get the job done for him. I don't know that I expect Drew Brown to repeat last week's performance, even though Winnipeg has arguably the best set of weapons in the CFL with Brady Oliveira running back, Kenny Lawler once again looking like a star. Then you got Dembski and Schoen. I mean, Rashid Bailey, even he's their fourth option, would be at least third on a lot of teams. Just so many playmakers here. But this again could be a very interesting game. Next up, we have Montreal going to Ottawa. Last week, Montreal had no Fajardo and no Stanback. No problem. I have to admit I was spectacularly wrong about that Al's game last week. Thought the Riders could go in there and pull an upset, but Mason Vine got hurt, and it was a romp. Obviously, I don't think the Owls are going to have much sympathy for the Riders losing their quarterback, as they were starting their backup too. We'll see if Fajardo is back in action this week. If he is not, this could be a very close game. Dustin Crum has not been the greatest passer this week. Well, in recent weeks, I should say. Game against Hamilton, he kind of struggled. Kind of got back on track last week against the Argos. Has a very high completion percentage overall this season, but only has 5 touchdown passes to 4 interceptions. But he seems to deliver frequently in the clutch. We got to give some respect to the Montreal defense. Done a good job most of this year. More teams that week to week, you're not entirely sure what you're going to see. Montreal has been a little bit more consistent this year, so I'm going with them even on the road. And I'm sure any Owls fans listening to this are like, why couldn't this dingus pick against us again? We're probably doomed. Well, can't blame you for thinking that. But we'll see if they can fly high once again this week. And we close out the week with BC at Saskatchewan. Jake Dondeling is going to get the start for the Riders this week. Mason Fine injured his hamstring last week. They even traded for new quarterbacks, sending Vedvik, the punter, to Hamilton and acquiring Antonio Pipkin, in return. The Riders, again, been up and down all year. Certainly have a lot of playmakers on the outside. But, yeah, this BC Lions team just looks to be on another level from them right now. Particularly now with Vernon Adams back in the lineup, this Lions team is just really good. I wouldn't call them unstoppable, but they just really hit a new gear whenever Adams is in the lineup. Obviously, we know a few weeks ago they lost in Winnipeg with Dane Evans as the starting quarterback. They also lost in Toronto on a 6-interception game, even though Vernon Adams still had quite great numbers outside of the interception column. I do think, once again, that BC defensive line is going to disrupt Dondeling all night, and the heat is really going to be on Craig Dickinson in Saskatchewan going forward. He's running out of his contract at the end of the season. I think it's questionable if he'll be back next year. We'll have to see. But that's all for now. Got 3 road teams winning this week. We'll see how I do. I'll see you in the next video.